Hi, I'm Jackie Tantillo, and this is Should Have Listened to My Mother. My guest was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, and raised in Southern California, where he received a merit scholarship to UCLA and graduated with a BA in literature. In addition to being a writer, Robert is a real estate broker, as was his mom. The family opened a real estate company back in '78, and it's still operating today. My guest is the author of several real estate books, as well as Hang Shakespeare and Shakey's Madness. Does a mental disorder reveal the real William Shakespeare? Let me think. Does that have something to do with his relationship with his mom? Hello, Robert Boog, or Bob, and welcome to Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Buenos dias, Jackie. How are you?
Wonderful. You're in beautiful, sunny California. How nice is that?
Oh, it's great.
I love how you've incorporated your degree, because often people go to school and they don't do anything in the future related to it, but you love to write. Obviously, you have a relationship with people, so you kind of incorporated everything, and I applaud you for that. So let's start off with your mom's name.
Her name is Joan.
And she grew up where, your mom?
My mom grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and so did my dad. And they actually met at a funeral.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that means they must be related. I mean, I
or
think
they
so.
have a commonality somewhere, right?
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah.
But your mom passed away almost 30 years ago, right?
Correct. Yeah, she passed away 28 years ago.
And here we go with this story. You are one of 9 kids.
Yes, I am the 5th child. So I have 4 older siblings and 4 younger. So what that means to you is that I am a very good negotiator.
You're smack dab in the middle.
You're right.
And the ratio, boy-girl ratio?
5 girls and 4 boys.
Awesome. I've got 5 sisters, too.
Wow.
Okay, so you, young age, moved to California. Why did your family move to California?
We were living in Minnesota, and my mother had caught pneumonia 3 times. And the doctor told her if she caught it one more time, she wouldn't survive. And my dad was working as the city manager of a town called Plymouth, Minnesota. And he found an opportunity to be the city manager of Indio, California, which is near Palm Springs. So it's kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies. We packed up the bags, kind of had a steak truck, like the Beverly Hillbillies, and we moved in this snowstorm to, we crashed at my aunt's house in El Monte. And this poor woman, she was in a wheelchair, she and her husband, and they had 2 kids. And so we added to the bunch, and that's what happened. And actually, my dad was supposed to get this job in Indio, and what happened, the reason that this person was no longer going to be working there was in a motorcycle accident, and then he got better. And so my dad was, out of a job, basically.
Wow. So this is a pretty big step to move a family of 9 kids from the Midwest to the West Coast. So your mom worked always as you were growing up?
No, she didn't start working until I was about 13. And what happened, her sister who lived in Ohio, her husband had a heart attack while he was driving his tractor or something and passed away. And so my dad thought, what if that were me? Because he was commuting on the freeway. And so my mom got into real estate.
Oh my gosh. Out of fear of losing her husband.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's not a positive impetus, but apparently she was very smart, because you're still running the business now.
Yeah.
So good for her.
Yeah, I tell people I'm a SOB, a son of a broker, because my mom was a real estate broker, and so was my dad.
Wow. So what is it about your mom's personality that she did well as a realtor, as a broker? Because you got to be a people person to be in real estate.
Yeah, she had a very sunny personality, really cheerful. and she kind of looked at real estate like being a matchmaker and would match people together. And she always encouraged me to be creative and that kind of thing. So I think that she was smart like that.
When you were younger, was she involved with all of you guys, or were you the boys and the girls in opposite ends and you were just not latchkey kids, but were you able to go and be wherever you wanted all day long?
Well,
I mean, did you have family
when
responsibilities, or were you just out playing and you knew when to come home for dinner, that kind of thing?
everyone else kind of knew when to come home for dinner, but I was kind of like the devious one, I
Oh
guess.
my gosh,
So
the truth comes out. It's amazing.
yeah, yeah, but here's the thing with my mom, all she would have to do is say, Robert, I'm very disappointed in you, or something like that. And that would be I did not want to disappoint my mom.
Oh, you'd much rather them yell at you, right? But once they say,
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed, oh gosh, it's terrible. So, what exactly would you do? Can you give me an example?
Oh, I was a master shoplifter. I could, I made an observation at an early age that they had these brown bags when you bought fruit. So I would walk into the store, I'm a little kid, and I would grab one of these brown bags and I would just put stuff like what I wanted, a soda or something, and put it in the brown bag and walk out of the store. And nobody glanced at me. They assumed I bought it. They were kind of like the same sizes. And now of course, they've changed to plastic. It was pretty easy, to be honest.
So, did you just stick with the supermarket five-finger
Oh,
discount, or did you go everywhere
yeah.
with the brown bag?
No, that was just it. It's kind of like I was always hungry, and but my mother busted me, of course, and wanted to see the receipt, and of course I dropped it. I couldn't find it, and she didn't buy that. So yeah,
Hmm.
after that I stopped. So.
So, can you set the table for us? You spoke about always being hungry. What was a meal like in your family?
Well, my mom was creative with that kind of stuff too. She would mix things up, but it was, um, her my mother's mother passed away when she was 4, so she was not exactly the best cook or the knew about mothering per se. Really, I guess. Um, my wife's mother, who lived with us, it's kind of weird because my mom passed away 28 years ago, and my wife's mother lived with us, my wife and I, for like 30 years. Um, After her husband passed away, my wife and I took her in kind of, and so I had that kind of matronly presence around me, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
So her style was a little bit different. There were, Hispanic people, or my wife is from Guatemala, so she's more into the cooking and nurturing kind of thing, hugging people, all that kind of, the good stuff, I guess.
The good stuff.
Yeah. Where my mom was more of the, readers are leaders, be creative, stay positive, say yes to adventure, that kind of thing. Like my parents took off for Europe when I was like, 13 years old. They stayed in Europe for like 21 days, something like that.
And they left you
And
all to your own devices? Or was
no, no, no,
someone in charge?
yeah, yeah, they knew better than that. They had it all planned out. But I spent the summer with my dad's friend. She was a doctor at UCLA, and she had this big cabin in near um, the Donner Pass. Um, and so it was on a lake and it was beautiful. So I did that. Also, I was in Boy Scouts, so I was an Eagle Scout. I was kept busy. They that was the thing with me, keep him busy. So I but I was like the overachiever type. So if I was in swimming, I had to win, and or Boy Scouts or whatever grades. Now I have a sister who's like 2 years older than me, And when we were both like in, I think I was in first grade and she was in third grade, the nuns where we attended school asked me if I wanted to be promoted to 2 grades. And I said no. My sister said yes. So even though she was 2 years older than me, she was like 4 years older school wise. And she was kind of my coach or my teacher, like stuff she learned. She became a teacher later in life, but her thing was sharing with me what she had learned, and so I always did well in school as a result. So I can't. I mean, it's not just me, kind of.
Wow, that's really great that your sister totally encouraged you to do this.
Yeah. So I have a sister who's 1 year younger than me. Okay, so my sister Margot, she would, she got straight A's all through high school. I got straight A's all through high school. My sister Paula, who's under me, we kind of had the same teachers, and so they would say, "Okay, well, let's see how you do." And she was not a student. She was not a studier.
Right. Apples and oranges, just different people.
Exactly.
Right. So I got to go back because I know what my family dinners were like with the 9 of us, but you were 11. Can you tell us a little bit about, was it one for one and one for all at dinner time? Did you sit
Oh, my
down
dad.
at one table? Was it
Yeah,
three
we
different
sat down.
tables put together or something?
Not well. We had one large table, and my dad had this rule that okay, like one day, let's say that there was chicken for dinner. He would say, "We'll start oldest to youngest." So the oldest, my sister Pat, would pick the first piece, and then it would go down the line, and then the next day it would be youngest to oldest. So I was in the exact middle, right? And that's why I say I got to be a good negotiator because I would like, oh man, I wish I had that piece there, and then
Did you
they
ever
would take that one.
suggest, Dad, can we start in the middle and go?
Yeah, no, he wouldn't buy that one.
Oh my gosh. And would you all sit down to dinner every night together?
Yeah, and I was in charge of passing out the drinks, and we always had lemonade. Now, when you have lemonade for 9 people, you take this one can of concentrate, and you dilute it until it's like one of those like snow cone kind of, not snow cone, but in Christmas they have these decorations where you flip them over and snow kind of falls down.
Yes.
That's what these little chips of lemonade kind of look like. Like,
Was it
and
very
it, like
diluted?
you're right, super diluted. So if I actually followed directions, and which occasionally I did, because I wanted to see what it actually tasted like, and my mother would say, "Oh, this is terrible. You've got to put more water in this." So you get used to a certain flavor, I guess.
Yeah. Was money an issue? Like, were you conscious of that there's not that much money, or were you guys financially sound?
Well, I never really knew. I mean, my dad, like later in life, he would say, like, "You don't know how expensive, that was, or just buying shampoo or toilet paper or things like that." And I didn't really appreciate it. I mean, at the time, I didn't think of it. I just thought we were kind of like everybody else.
Sure.
So,
It's amazing. As a kid, hopefully you don't have to think about it, right? Hopefully that's not weighing on your
yeah,
mind because there's enough that a kid goes through in life. But later on, it's always great to have those conversations. Today, you and your siblings share stories? Does everyone have a completely different perspective of what it was like in the house?
oh yeah, that's kind of fun or kind of funny that you mentioned that because yeah, we do still get together. I do have I have a brother that lives up in Oregon, and my sister Margot, her grandkids now are in Utah, so she's mostly in Utah. But other than that, the rest of us get together and share stories and things like that. But
Were you some of you guys sneaking out of the window at night? Were you mischievous, any of you?
that would be me. Yeah, that I actually I drove my mother's car to get my
Oh,
driver's license. Believe it or not, they said, "Where's your mother?" I go, "Oh, she
you took
required."
your mom's car To go get your
Yes.
drive to do your test and everything?
Yeah, I kind of regret doing that. I got in so much trouble, and
From the law or from your parents or both?
ouch, from my mother. Like, what were you thinking? And also, I graduated from UCLA,
Yeah.
and I went there on scholarship, and I didn't realize, to me, school was school. It was fun. I did well. But so for my graduation, I did not attend the graduation ceremony. And I didn't realize, my parents would be attending. There that morning, I was reading the Daily Bruin newspaper, and there was a guy selling a car for $125. Now the night, yeah, the night before, my dad had given me $100 bill, and a firm handshake.
Hmm.
Congratulations, you graduated. And with that, the cap and gown cost like $67.50, and I was supposed to rent the cap and gown. And so instead, I borrowed my roommate's cap and gown, took a Polaroid picture with it, thinking I could just pass that off to my parents later. And then I lived at a frat house. So this, you know, my frat brother, I got on the back of his motorcycle and we went down into Westwood, and he was a doctor. We helped him push the car out of, the garage. It was his mother's car, and it was in perfect condition too. It was a 1964 Ford Fairlane station wagon. It was,
Wow. What
yeah,
a iconic car.
yeah, a
Wow.
gas guzzler. So bought the car. Got it for $80, and because I told him I needed $20 for gas to get it, back home. And when I got home with my new car, here I am all, happy. My parents are there with my grandparents, with my uncles and aunts who had all, you know, traveled from Minnesota to see my graduation. And they're like, where were you? And
Oh
I
my
was,
gosh. Did they call your name and everything and you weren't there?
yeah.
Oh my
So I
Talk
guess
about disappointing.
yes. Here I had my picture. Yeah, I was here. And they're all like, my uncle just started, like, he burst out laughing. I mean, so it was kind of embarrassing. But,
How long did it take for them to get over that?
oh, just a beer. So, we just, forget it. I mean, it's just, you know, my uncle, he was like commiserating with me. Yeah, I wouldn't have gone there either.
Oh my
So,
gosh, your poor parents. Or, maybe they knew that that was exactly who you were and just chuckled and went
yeah,
on.
they actually took it, I mean, much better probably than I would have. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my
But,
goodness.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about Joan's personality. What was she doing all day long while you guys were in school, as younger kids? Was she cooking all day, cleaning all day, or before she started getting into the real estate?
When I was a young kid, I I was the only child that like had a physical problem, I guess. I didn't start walking until really late. Um, in fact, the doctors thought I wouldn't be able to walk. And they had these kind of, if you saw the movie Forrest Gump,
Yes.
um, yeah, he had these braces. I had braces like that when I was really young, like 2 and 3 years old. So they told my mother if they could get me up, if she could get me up and, walking, then maybe I would have a chance of walking, I guess. So we lived in Minnesota at that time on a 10-acre property with a view of a lake, because in Minnesota there are like 10,000 lakes. And my mother used to bring me down there and uh, strap on my sister's ice skates, and I would skate. She would hold my hand, and eventually I got to skate to her. And the doctors were all amazed that my legs were strong enough, and so that part of it I do remember. But then she was sick. She had pneumonia so many times that she was mostly in bed. And so as far as that, my sister my oldest sister Pat kind of took over, and she was the real. She was like my second mom there.
That's what happens when you're the oldest. She was the
Yeah,
oldest.
yeah.
Have you talked much about this with your sister? I mean, what it was like for her?
A little bit. She is. I mean, we were all raised Catholic, and my dad was the kind of person. He would walk like all nine of us to the very front row in the church
The
in
front
that front
pew.
pew. Yes,
Wow.
and that was so embarrassing for me. I mean, I didn't like that, but that's the way it was. And my sister Pat, she's a lectern. She still does it today. I mean, she's involved in the church and that kind
Well,
of
good
stuff.
for her. It,
Yeah,
it it speaks to her, right? I think that's important that we all have something that speaks to us. Um,
yeah,
I mean, there's the in my family there's the older four kids and then a gap. My mom lost a few babies, but then the younger three. So they always tell about, oh, we used to have to bathe you all the time and blah 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 blah, which I don't remember, but we're all very very close, and it's just so much fun to hear. To hear the stories and the different perspectives with the older siblings. And I am the youngest of the seven kids. So,
and so you're
you
the
know,
baby of the family.
I am. Yeah. I learned so much. Everyone in my family, we're all very, very close to this day, even though both of our parents are gone. And just being flexible, someone say, hey, you want to come with? I'm like, absolutely. It taught me so many things. And I became a really good listener by being the youngest because I was too young to get a word in edgewise. So I decided to stop trying to get a word in edgewise and just listen. So it all seems to have worked out very well for me.
Sure.
Very, very lucky. What was your mom like to work with at the real estate office?
She was great. I mean, she was very patient. My first week in real estate, I didn't know how real estate worked. I just assumed like people would walk through the door and want to buy a house and that kind of thing. And so my dad tells me, I, he said, Robert, tomorrow I'm going to give you a list of 1,000 people who want to buy or sell a home. And so I'm like, okay. And then so and that night I couldn't even sleep. I kept thinking like in my head back then it took so long. Just when you went to the bank, you were standing in line like forever. There were only like one or
One
two tellers.
teller.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like, how am I going to like cash all these checks? And I'm thinking of the money I'm going to make.
Right.
So the following day, my dad walks in the office and he walks right up by my desk, and I waited for like 10 minutes, and then I said, "Hey, Dad, remember you're going to give me that list?" And he said, "Oh yeah. Let me give me a minute, and I'll be right there." So I said, "Okay." So I'm sitting at my desk, and he walks over and he plops down this big telephone book.
I was going to say, oh my
Yeah.
God.
And yeah. In this book, you'll find 1,000 people who want to either buy or sell a home. Your job is to, locate
Find
them.
them.
Yeah.
Wow. And did your mom have a similar business savviness to her?
My mother was what you would call like a buyer's agent. She worked really well with buyers, and she was really smart in figuring out what buyers wanted. When I should say, when I started in real estate, I was taught what they call the Goldilocks method. Like you show a buyer a house that's too cheap, and then one that's too expensive, and then the third one is the one that they'll pick. And that's kind of how everyone believed, or back then. And so then you would worry about the financing too. And then hopefully the people would be able to qualify for the home. And the belief was if they want the house, they'll figure it out. And so she taught me a couple of things as far as like showing buyers and, well, actually, my mother was the one who got me into real estate because I hated real estate. My parents would talk real estate every night, and it was so boring. I hated it. And then she told me, "Hey, I've got this ticket for this guy Tom Hopkins, and there's no one at my office that can go. I paid $50 for this ticket. And back then, $50 was a lot of money. It was like $500 or something. And so she said, it's in Brentwood. And if you know Los Angeles, UCLA is adjacent to Beverly Hills, and Beverly Hills is adjacent to Brentwood. So it's, not that far. And so I told her I would go, and I knew I couldn't lie to my mother. If she said, "You're going to go," and I said yes, I would have to go. So the day of that, it was at this hotel, and everybody there was dressed to the nines. All these people, they had Mercedes and Bentleys and all this, these rich people. Here I was, coming off of public transit, wearing a lumberjack shirt and jeans and tennis shoes. And I gave there was kind of like a, I don't know, maitre d' or something, like somebody at the door you would hand the ticket to and walk in. So I found a seat, and then I noticed everybody had these books or booklets, and the guy at the front forgot to give me one. So I went back and asked him, I said, "Hey man, you forgot to give me one of those booklets." So he said, "Okay, here you go." And he gave me one. Then when I went back in to sit down again, there was somebody sitting on my seat, this real rich guy. And I said, "Hey, that's my seat." And he said, "Nah, no, it's mine now," or something like that. So I looked around and there were no more chairs. This place was like standing room only, So I went back to the guy up front. I said, "Dude, there are no seats in there." And he yells over to the other guy. He said, "Frank, are there any chairs in there?" And he says, "Nope, there's only one up front." So he goes, "Follow me." So he takes me all the way to the stage. And I mean, you kind of like walk down this back hallway, and there was a back door.
You went backstage.
That led to the stage, right? Yeah. So I'm on stage, and but they had this curtain there, and he had a folding chair for his slides that he was they had one of those slide projectors. Mm-hmm. So he took the stuff off that and he gave me the chair, and then suddenly the curtain opened. They go, I hear this, "Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Hopkins." And there he is, and I'm on stage with him holding this chair, and walking down this chair. The only place to put it was like right in front of that stage. So I was mesmerized by for the next like 3 hours by this guy, and I realized you can be creative in this real estate field.
Wow, you in the messages that you sent me, you said my mom was a saint as well as a real estate broker, so she totally gifted you that ticket, man.
Yeah,
she knew it would get you.
Yeah, she knew me really well, obviously, but it's kind of like in real estate, if you have the right personality and the right, like you say, you learn that listening is more important really than talking, and just asking questions. The isn't it, doesn't it, wasn't it, wouldn't it, couldn't it, shouldn't it, as you stated, that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, you are wonderful to talk to. I really, really appreciate you joining me. Robert Boog, it's spelled B as boy, O-O-G, and his website is robertboog.com. Thank you so much for sharing your stories of your mom, Joan.
Oh, my pleasure. And what's your mom's name?
My mom is Linda.
Linda, okay.
Thanks for asking. You're the first that's ever asked that question. Linda is magnificent wherever she may be in the world right now. It's really been a pleasure. You've written your books, Shakey's Madness, related to William Shakespeare as well as Hang Shakespeare. You've got real estate books, and you dabble in songwriting as well. Your mom really had an influence on you. Congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you, Jackie. Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.